The vast Jurassic lowlands, a huge area of forests and fern prairies, supporting a massive amount of species, great and small, from the quick Dryosaurus to the colossal Diplodocus. Today, however, there is a newcomer, an odd visitor that looks like a mix of a stegosaur and a sauropod. A small herd of Miragaia has arrived from lands to the east. It is unusual to see this species in this area, and they are likely scouting out a new territory or have become lost in their travels. These stegosaurs with unusually long necks are well equipped to feed on many levels of vegetation, and depending on what they find, may even choose to stay in this new land. As they browse, the first large dinosaurs they see is a herd of Camarasaurus. These gentle giants are no threat to them, but the cautious Miragaia are more than happy to watch them from afar, rather than mingle amongst the multi-ton sauropods. The herd have fed well, and now needs to find water. If the herd is to stake out this area for itself, it is very important that they remember every major water source. They start to move further into the prairie, coming closer to the Camarasaurus, but both species pay little attention to one another. The calm is suddenly broken when the Miragaia hear quick and powerful footsteps. Swinging their heads around, the stegosaurs see a pack of Allosaurus, top predators sprinting out of the forest edges. They call out in alarm, but the predators aren't going for them. They are targeting something much larger, and with no spines. They go for the Camarasaurus. More specifically, they go for one of the subadults that has strayed too far from the herd. Though not fully grown, the subadult is still far larger than a single allosaur, and multiple times heavier, but they have numbers on their side. Two of them go for the rear legs, biting into one each and pulling back to stop it from running away. Another jumped onto the sauropod's side, and held on with claws and talons. Another went to the front and leapt upwards, trying to get a hold of the sauropod's neck. Their victims struggled against his attackers, knowing that to fall over or be pulled to the ground was a death sentence. The herd was finally reacting, their small brains not good for quick thinking or quick reactions, but they were finally beginning to mobilize. Seeing that the predators were preoccupied, the Miragaia fled, moving away from the carnage. They weren't particularly fast, and each one kept swinging their long necks around to make sure they weren't being followed. It was this lack of focus that would be their undoing. One of the Miragaia turned to face its front, and for a brief second saw the face of an oncoming attacker. It was a Ceratosaurus, charging at him from a 45-degree angle. Before he could react, the carnivore slammed its jaws into his neck, long teeth sinking deep into his flesh. This was not enough to deter the stegosaur, and he was preparing to bring his tail to swing around when suddenly he saw a second Ceratosaurus closing in, a large female with a facial scar. The female lowered her head and smashed into the Miragaia's side so hard the herbivore fell crashing to the ground. The first Ceratosaurus was still holding onto the Miragaia's neck, and now the second bit down on its stomach. The herd was in chaos, and most were running in all directions, but one had turned its back to the predators and was swinging its spiked tail at them. That's when the third Ceratosaurus appeared, snapping its jaws at the lone Miragaia, averting its attention away from the others. The herbivore swung its tail at the attacker's head, but the new Ceratosaurus ducked under it. There was an opening for him to counterattack, but he didn't take it. He only had to keep this Miragaia busy. The two Ceratosaurs kept biting down into the grounded stegosaur, thrashing their heads trying to kill it as quickly as possible. But stegosaurs were tough, and this one wasn't going down without a fight. He kicked at them, hitting both attackers on the underside, and swung his tail wildly, even managing to draw blood from the large female's tail, but it wasn't enough. The carnivores had ripped open his neck and underbelly. With one final swing of his tail that weakly hit against his attackers, the Miragaia went limp. With her prey now dead, the female Ceratosaurus barked at the male who was still distracting the other Miragaia. The male turned and joined the other two hunters. Together they grabbed onto the Miragaia's corpse and began to pull it away into the cover of the forest. Despite their size, they seemed to disappear into the foliage, leaving a trail of blood in their wake. The Miragaia soon got back together, all badly shaken. They could see that the Allosaurus attack had failed, and were retreating from the Camarasaurus. The subadult sauropod had managed to survive, though with dozens of slashes and bite marks, though none were life-threatening. The Miragaia now decided to stick close to the Camarasaurus herd, till their nerves had calmed. They could wait for a drink. Whether they stayed in this new area, however, was now in doubt. In the forest, the three Ceratosaurus fed on their latest kill. The female had taken a risk hunting in close proximity to a pack of Allosaurus, but it had ended in them catching a large meal, and she had commanded the two males under her to good effect. Slowly but surely, she was carving out her own small kingdom for herself and for her kind. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today we will be breaking down one of the oddest looking stegosaurs I've ever seen, Miragaia. Miragaia was a medium-sized stegosaur that lived around 150 million years ago in the Jurassic period, and its name means beautiful earth goddess, after the town it was discovered in and the Greek titan Gaia. It was discovered in Portugal in 1991. Unfortunately, the rear half of the skeleton was likely destroyed by roadworks. The front half of the skeleton included the first cranial material for a stegosaur in Europe. A few pieces of a juvenile were also found, along with the adult, which was 21 years old at the time of its death. Miragaia got up to 6.5 meters long and was around 2.5 meters tall and weighed over 2 tons. It had the longest neck of any stegosaur, which had 17 vertebrae, more than most sauropods. Its legs were nearly equal in length, giving it a tall, upright posture and keeping the animal higher from the ground than other stegosaurs. This, along with the long neck, meant it could browse higher and access different plants to its low browsing relatives. Some depictions show it having shoulder spikes, but it is no longer believed to have had any. Though what the back part of it looked like is speculative, it is usually taken from closely related stegosaurs like Decentris. It was likely a poor runner, instead using its tail spikes called thagomisers to intimidate and if need be impale attackers. Like other stegosaurs, they had 2 rows of backplates, though they were small compared to some other species. The debate is still on to this day whether they were used for insulation, intimidation, display, or communication. So Miragaia is another species where we only have one particular skeleton for an entire species. But it's such a wacky looking dinosaur that I simply had to do an episode on one, especially after I saw that crazy neck. After all, the point of this series is to highlight lesser known extinct animals, and I wish TV shows, video games and movies would use some of these odder looking species in their mediums, to show the true variety of the ancient world. So do you think that a long neck is a good way to evolve? After all, it worked for the sauropods, but the only mammals with long necks are the giraffe family. Until then, look forward to new stories coming out of the Ceratosaurus kingdom.